two, one. It's been the old age competition, boys versus girls, who's stronger, who's better. And in this day and age, we're actually doing a lot of work on equality, making sure that everyone is treated equally. On today's show, we're going to be speaking to a special guest all the way from Florida in America, who's going to talk about all the strong things that women can do and how to equalize that between men. Hi, welcome to the Secret Men's Business Podcast. This is Joey Buzzertle. On today's show, we've got this beautiful guest all the way from America, Shawn Jacobson, who's going to be talking about women and doing it strong. Jay, how are you, Shawn? How are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
Good. It's nighttime there, right?
It is. It's 7 p.m.
It's 9 a.m. here tomorrow. I'm in the future.
You are. That's so weird.
I know. Weird. So it's so lovely to have you on the show, especially because I mainly have a lot of male guests. So do you want to just tell our audience a little bit about you, a little bit about your background?
Sure. Okay. Well, I'm Shawn, but I'm a girl, so I know that might be confusing. I'm 23 years old. I'm from South Florida, America. I went to Syracuse University up in New York for television, radio, and film. I graduated in May of 2020, like right into Corona.
Oh, my God. You're a Corona baby, aren't you?
Kinda, yeah. So I'm living with my mommy now, and I was unable to get a job in my field. The entertainment industry took a real toll, negatively, and so I kind of just got bored, and I created my podcast, Tough Titties, as kind of my passion project, and then I've been doing it since January, and yeah, that's kind of the path that I'm trying to take right now.
Yeah.
So
why? I know this is not on the question list, but I'm curious now. Why? What is the name representing for you? I mean, the introduction was saying that it's all about strength and women showing their equality. Is it so? Is that important for you to show that you are just as good as any man and you can do it just as long and as hard and as fast?
Okay, Joe, I'm better.
You're better. That's why you're called Shawn, right?
Yes, yeah. Actually, the name came from me getting in trouble when I was in kindergarten, and my mom used to say that to me when I was being a brat. She'd be like, "Oh, tough titties, like you don't get everything you want," type of thing. But she never told me like what titties were.
Yeah. So you do realize that tough titties is an English term.
Like, what do you mean English?
Like it's in the UK. The UK has.
Oh, British. I'm like
British. Sorry, British. So, has your mum got any connection to the UK?
I mean, my great grandma. So her grandma. So I guess.
Okay. So tell us what you think. Let's start. Tell us what you think you feel are the main differences between men and women, or maybe the misconception that men have on women. I know that could be a big list, but what do you think are the main things that men assume or make up that they think they know about women?
One thing I would say for sure that I think basically all men assume that all women want relationships, which isn't true. Number two, I would say women are just as horny as men, but we just know how to control it and keep it together. And what else? I think there's a lot of misconceptions that I think we both have about each other. Can I
tell you one that I always hear is always hear that men assume, right, that when women have their periods, that they become demons, right? And so if a woman has a bad day or a bad mood, it's instantly talked about, going, "Oh, don't talk to Shawn, she's having a period." Right? So there's this misconception that your emotions actually equal that. So that's a really weird one. And with the horniness thing, do you think that it's control, or do you just think that you don't think there's anything about society in there? That means that.
Oh, yes. I think definitely society plays a role in it. Like women were kind of taught to not share it. Don't be so vocal. But also we don't have that piece that really is a flag to show somebody that they're horny.
Yeah, the testosterone part of it.
Yeah, so we definitely know how to control it better, and we conceal it better as well,
Okay.
for sure.
And what do you think about, I know that we're going to talk about this later, but what do you think about the misconception that men have about if a woman is highly sexed and then they're put into a box, right? Like I've heard a lot of guys say, "Oh, I can have sex with her, but I would never marry her,"
Oh
because
my
they
God.
go on.
Okay, I actually just recorded an episode today talking about this, and we kind of talked about the Madonna whore complex as well. And it's hard because I think that there are a lot of men that do think like that, that it's like they see a girl and it's either, okay, girlfriend, wifey, take home to mom, or I just want to fuck her, or they don't want anything to do with her. But
Yeah.
it's one or the other, and they have trouble like having a box that's both.
Yeah.
um
Well, they sort of make an assumption, and they sort of, because they look for that pristine, value-driven woman to get to have children with, and then
uh-huh.
they have the other women to have affairs with, or to, you know what I mean. So there's all this double standards, and but you know what, like. Sex in the City, I thought really opened that up. But what I also discovered, I think, and I'm curious to know what you think, is that
Uh-huh.
then other women started judging each other.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I got really shocked when I thought you girls were all sisters, right? And then all of a sudden there's this whole separation with, because I'm all for people
Mhm.
being themselves. So if a woman, like I've got lots of friends who have lots of sex that are female, and I really love them. But they tell me how angry they are when other women judge them for that.
Yeah, I mean, it never feels good when anybody judges you for that. I even had a friend who I've known since I was in elementary school, since 4th grade, so we were like 9.
Mm.
And when I started the podcast, she basically said that she didn't want to be my friend anymore because I'm publicly talking about my clit and my daddy issues. I'm like,
Oh my
okay,
god. Okay.
and
So instant. Well, it's all about her then, isn't it?
right. And so obviously that made me upset. And my sister was like, this is not even about you.
Yeah,
It's really not about you.
why did you get upset? Because the thing is that her insecurity is really showing her. So you talking about your clit is getting her insecure about the fact that she can't, right? So
Yeah,
that's
I
sad.
mean,
It's sad that you're not friends though.
yeah, it is, but I'm over it.
Yeah, good on you.
Prude.
You're gonna make better friends now anyway. So what do
Yeah,
you?
Joe's my friend now.
Yeah, what do you think then are the things that we have that are, I know that again the list is long, but what are the things that we are the same as or similar? Like, you know,
With
that
men and women.
yeah, that we sometimes, like, I mean, the biggest one I feel is the job thing. Like, why, I don't understand why a woman can't be the president or why a woman can't run a company, right? And again, it always comes back to babies and period. I don't understand. So, what do you think are some of the main things that are the same?
I think men and women are, we're all needy. We're all very needy. We're
That's so cool.
all and I'm the type of person where I'm like, can you please, sir, give me attention? And I think one, I just have issues because I'm sure you're a therapist, you know,
Yeah.
like the attachment theories, right?
Mhm.
So um, I'm anxious, so I'm like, I always want your attention, and I've gotten blocked before because I'm like, hello, I'm here, and you're
So you got
not.
ghosted.
I'm ghosted, yeah, but even just like we're talking and I know that they're ignoring me, like they have their red on or something, and I'm like, just keep the conversation going so I know you're there.
Yeah.
Hello. And
Yeah.
they're like, no,
And do you
no.
find that do you find that men do the same thing?
I have had really clingy guys be talking to me before. Did I like it? No, but I still do it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that you hit a very important point, and that is that we are in a time that, you know, with digital and social media and all that, that people are a bit more needy because we don't really see people as much. You know what I mean? So this whole
Yeah,
texting thing, you know, I mean, I think now people expect the response straight away nowadays, don't they?
because I know you're on your phone.
You know?
I know.
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
like,
But
you
that's the
can't
point, is
pretend.
that we're so expecting it now. Like, if you're busy and you can't answer a text, it's like that's the worst thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I would be cool if you could just be like, look, I'm really busy today. I'll talk to you when I can.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
nobody does that.
Yeah. I know. That's maybe something we need to learn. So this could be a sensitive thing because I've always thought about this, right? I'm all for equality, but why
Okay.
do you think women struggle then to do the jobs that are really hard? You know what I mean? Like they do those jobs, but if we were done, I mean, this is where my head gets confused. Like if we're going to have equality, then I want women to be garbage collectors. I want women to be down in the underneath in the subways killing all the rats. I want women to be oil rig workers, but they don't seem to want to do that. So they want to just do. They just want the equality for things that work for them. Again, please don't kill me for that statement. But I'm just curious on what you think about why. Does equality represent the same or does equality represent different things?
That's a hard question. Don't ask me this.
Well, would you go working underneath the subway and
No.
yeah. So
But
why do you think women don't?
I don't think anybody wants those
Oh, I know a
jobs.
few men that love it.
That love killing the rats in the subways.
They just love the job because it could pay well, or it could mean that it's quiet because they don't have to deal with real people. I don't know,
Uh-huh.
but do you think that there are roles that men are just expected to do?
Yeah, but I also think like if you kind of switch the way you're thinking, like
Mm,
there are a lot of men who expect their wives or their baby mamas to be like the main caregiver, even if they have a job as well. It's like you're the woman, so this is kind of your thing.
yeah,
You're the one doing the diapers, you're the one making the school lunches, like all of that stuff. So I think
yeah.
that's a really
I
tough
think that
question.
no. I think you've actually, I think that that's where we have to start. What you just said. Like my mind is probably going into the future where probably all of that will be resolved. Like at the moment, I think we are simply having to deal with the fact that a man goes to work, a woman goes to work, a woman has a baby, but it's expected that the woman has work and looks after the baby and looks after
Right.
the house. And so
Yeah.
now I think men are sort of being aware of all of that, like, hold on a second, looking after your baby is a job. It's not like she's sitting at home
Yeah.
watching Bold and the Beautiful and having a cup of tea. You know what I mean? But I think as that evolves on further, I think then there will be, because I mean there's more openness now to women being in the armed forces. There's
Hmm.
women doing these sort of jobs, and I think it will evolve, which is good. And maybe it may lead to the sexual thing. How do you think we're going to resolve this whole sexual freedom thing? Like, what do women or men need to do to allow there to be sexual freedom and equality? So if a woman wants to be a dominatrix, or if a woman wants to be more
Hmm.
dom in the bedroom, or if a woman actually turns around and says to her partner, do this, do that, it's not going to be like an insecurity for a man, because I don't know if you know that men are insecure, right?
Of course.
And you know that men are scared of women, right?
Scared?
Yeah, they
Actually,
are.
someone has told me that I'm scary and I'm
No,
intimidating. And I'm
you're not.
like,
No, you're just confident, and so a lot of people would probably feel intimidated because of the roles we talked about. You're not supposed to be
yeah.
scary. You're supposed to be a good little quiet, nice 23-year-old that does what she's told. You know what I mean? So, but you've got a
Yeah.
life. So, what do you think we need to do to fix that sexual? You know, it's wrong. I
Mm,
think. What do you do? How do you dominate the dialogue around sex so people can just let you be?
just let me be. Well, people obviously don't let me be, but like I've had guys stop talking to me because of the podcast, and they like pretend that they're cool with it, and then they're actually, oh, you're that open? Never mind.
Okay.
So I would say, it's interesting because there is a good amount of guys that are really into being dominated by a woman, and I'm not sure where that stems from, like if it's like a childhood thing or what.
Well, I mean, I think it's got to do with them releasing. See, I think what we said
The
earlier about
power.
the roles thing, right? So if a man's going to
Hmm.
work and he's a businessman and he's this powerful person, then he doesn't have any way to release that. And so going into a
Yeah.
sexual role and letting him be, I don't know, a baby or a a sub or something is liberating. And
Yeah.
but it's sort of okay for a man to do that. It's like it's hush hush. We don't talk about it. If a woman does that, it's like becomes this big controversy.
Yeah. It's hard. I think like you just gotta it's hard. It's really hard. I think if you're raised in a home that is super religious or it's just like not talked about at all, you're not going to be super comfortable being that sexually expressive. So I think that's kind of where you have to start.
Yeah.
It's
And
just
what
getting
about
more comfortable in your skin.
yeah? And what about I don't know. Like I think it needs to start also with us not judging each other.
Yeah, but that's never going to stop.
Well, see, that's my mission with this podcast. Is
Pessimistic.
like my mission is
Yeah.
about self acceptance because whenever someone judges, like when those people judge you on your podcast, it really,
Mm-hmm.
I would get excited if I was you because that
Really?
means that, yeah, because that means that you're stirring something inside of them enough for them to judge you,
I
right?
guess that, yeah.
Because that's how we need to change is I think I was going to say brave, but you're not brave. You're actually future driven because we have to talk about things like, for
Yeah.
example, suicide, men's suicide, right? No one
Yeah,
wants to talk.
nobody talks about it.
I know, right? So it's the same thing. If we want things to change, we need to start talking. So I saw in your profile that you mentioned kink and like again
Uh-huh.
BDSM and all that. So
Uh-huh.
how did you get into exploring that? Like, how was your gateway to that?
Okay, so I think I've always kind of had an interest in it, but I mean, I'm only 23. Like I haven't been having sex for that long, but when I was first starting having sex, it didn't really cross my mind because I didn't really know what it was. But when I got a boyfriend and like we explored a little bit more, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like handcuffs is like as far as we've gotten. So um it hasn't gotten that far. But I was actually doing research for my podcast because I wanted to have somebody in the BDSM world come on to talk about what it's like. Because I think two things: either people think it's like abuse and like scary, or they think it's super hot, but they think it's like 50 Shades of Grey, and it's not. So I joined a few Facebook groups that were based on BDSM and kink, and I made a post and a guy was like, "Can I call you?" And I was like, "Sure." And then we had a conversation just about his dynamic with his wife, and he has 2 kids, and he was like, "I can tell there's like more of a personal interest in this for you. Like this isn't just your podcast talking." And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And so I think just seeing that there's like actually a big group of people that are interested in this stuff makes you feel more normal.
Yeah, that's
Um,
normalizing it.
yeah, and it's just like you can accept like, oh, being into this stuff isn't that weird. Like
Yes.
there's tons of like there's tons of people, there's tons of um readings and stuff like that I've done, and I joined a few more groups. Like I'm in a bunch of groups just 'cause I like to see what people are talking about.
Yeah. And you probably
So
would have been surprised how many there were, right?
there are a lot. Yeah,
There
there
are a
are a
lot.
lot.
Like, when you're saying that there's a lot of people that are interested, it's way more than a lot. Like, there's a whole underworld community. We just had a BDSM kink week on SMB, and two
Mhm.
things came out of that. One was what you said at the very beginning, and that was I was really shocked because it's a men's group. How many men were so disgusted, right? And I'm thinking, what?
Really?
Yes, and yeah, they were, and again, it's all got to do with them, right? In regards to them
Uh-huh.
not resolving what they feel because they look at the act and go, it's disgusting, and that means that it could be what you said about the family or being religious. And the other thing that I learned, which I totally didn't think about, is that BDSM is probably the most like formulated consent sex.
Yes, it is crazy. So I've made like a lot of online friends now that are in the community just because I'm so curious for my own personal reasons. um, And I don't know if you've heard about FetLife. Do you know that website? Okay,
No,
it's
but I will
basically
look it
like,
up.
okay, just be careful because it's all like naked people. And I didn't know that. And I made my profile and I'm the only person that has their face as their profile picture, not their genitalia. So just so you know. So I went on there because people were always talking about it. And it gives you the number of the amount of people that are on this website. And there's so many.
Is
There's
it
so
like
many.
millions?
Let me look it up right now. Give me 1 second. And I'll tell you, it gives you like the exact number.
Yeah. I always wonder if those sort of sites are like, how many, because I've been on them as well, but I always wonder how many people are genuine versus how many people are creepy, right? But I think that's the whole
there's a
thing with
lot
the
of creeps.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that with anything, it doesn't matter. There's creeps on Instagram. So, like, it's really about just being careful. But I think you're right. I think 50 Shades of Grey allowed there to be an opening for women and men to talk about that world, right? Before it used to be underground. Now it's becoming normalized slowly. I did want to ask you about your opinion on Me Too and about all the things that evolved in the last few years with all the the calling out of sexual predatory behavior in Hollywood and in sport and in TV and all that. So how did you feel, or what's your opinion on when you heard about Me Too and when you heard about Weinstein and you heard about all those people?
I think it's disgusting. I think, yeah. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot to say, but there's also not that much to say at the same time. Like and also I said at the beginning that, the entertainment industry, I went to school for television, radio, and film. So that would be the realm that I would be working with all these old creepy men that are just like Harvey Weinstein, but have yet to be called out. And as a young 20 something, like I would be probably very susceptible to that kind of behavior. And yeah, here's the thing. Me Too, I think is great. I think men should be called out for their behavior. That's not okay. But I had a conversation on my podcast with this author named Christopher Lovestone, and he wrote a book called Conscious Cock, if you guys want to check it out. It's basically a men's guide to like how to be a man in this era. And he was saying that men are scared to do anything with women.
Scared.
I know, but no, they're scared of being like crossing a boundary.
Yes. So what?
And they don't want to be called out.
Yeah. So what does that mean for you when you hear that as a woman? Do you think that's real? Like, do you think that boundary thing is? Because I think that the whole consent thing is in Australia anyway. For a lot of people under your age and under, they have the biggest confusion is that a lot of girls and guys were actually told or asked what they think rape is. And they didn't realize that rape could be with someone Like, they always thought that rape was a stranger, right? Because people would say, be careful of strangers. They didn't realize that their boyfriend could rape them or a person at a party could rape them. So it's like, is that the same in the US?
I think people my age, at least like people that I know that I went to school with, I think we're all aware that it could be anybody. It's somebody that does something sexually to you that you did not consent to. But do people care? I don't know, because it happens a lot.
I know, but see, when we look at American movies, like American teenage movies, there always seems to be that inequality portrayed in those. I'm older than you, so I remember the 80s and the 90s where I remember watching 16 Candles, where one of the characters, the cheerleader, was drunk in a car, and her boyfriend gave her to this guy to have sex with.
Oh, yes, I remember that. That's disgusting.
But that's just one of many, many, many scenarios where that happened. So I know I'm naive by saying this, but in my mind, because it plays out so many times, I think that's what happens in high school. That there's all these parties, people get drunk, people hook up, and it's sort of. Or do you think it's not really like that? Is it like that?
Not where, for me, my experience wasn't like that in high school, but college, yes. People are
Okay.
always drunk. People are
Yeah.
always drunk in college.
And is the
What is the
consent thing in
drinking
there?
age? What is
Oh,
the drinking
18.
age? Yeah, it's 21. It's 21 here, but I don't know if it really makes that big of a difference.
I
Like the
think people
majority of
drink.
people,
Yeah, they
yeah,
drink
the
it, then they
major,
drink.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know if it really makes a difference that we have an older drinking age, but
Yeah. But the consent thing in, like, when you go to university and you go to parties, are those behaviours happening where people don't report it? Because again, I saw a
yeah.
documentary recently where a lot of men that were accused of rape the colleges don't want to actually expose it because they're afraid of their reputation. So it's like this
Oh,
hush.
yeah.
Yeah, like, so is that?
Especially at my where I went to school, it was a really big thing because it was a private university, so they don't want to lose all the shit ton of money that they're getting, um being like seen as a place where
Rape
students are
culture?
getting raped.
Yeah.
So yeah, I personally know two people that have been raped at my school,
Yeah.
and they didn't want to say anything because they were like, one one reason is they're scared, like if they say anything, like nothing is going to come of it and then it's just going to feel worse for them.
Mm,
And two, they have their own guilt,
yeah.
that they feel bad for the guy that raped them. And I'm like, girl, I'll go report
Really?
him for you.
Yeah. Or maybe
Yeah.
they feel like, I think that the system doesn't really. I mean, I get so angry because, like, it's like the system isn't designed for women. You know what I mean?
Nothing
Like the system,
here is designed for women.
like the system is about making the woman look like she's guilty.
Yeah.
She look, when I hear things like, "Well, what were you wearing?
Oh, bleh.
Why were you
I
out
could
drunk?"
be naked and you should not touch me. Like,
Exactly, right? So why do you think men or boys, I'm going to call them boys. Why do you think those boys at college, why
uh-huh.
why do they who teaches them that? How come they feel
I
privileged?
don't know.
Is it just a male culture that just has been passed on? It's like this tradition at college, isn't it? That there's frat parties and there's, again,
Yeah.
it does go back into those movies that we see because that reinforces that that's how to be. So, have you got male friends that do that, or have you got male friends that
I
talk
hope
bad?
not.
Okay, so it's not something
In
that you.
my head, here's the thing. I think a lot of guys that uh have raped women before don't think that they raped them.
Yeah,
And then the
that's, yeah.
woman that they raped is having all of this negative effects,
Mm,
has to go to therapy. They probably go and get a rape kit and rape test if they decide they want to move forward with like persecuting him. And
that goes on and on for years.
and the guy just, like, unless they're told, they go about their day like nothing happened because they have no idea that what they did was wrong.
Yeah, and also they're given a pat on the back by their mates for having sex, and the women's shamed. I don't know. You know what we're doing in
Yeah.
Australia? We're talking about doing is we're talking about. I know it's really weird even to say it out loud.
Okay,
We're talking.
let me hear.
We're talking about making an app, right? That
Uh-huh.
when you meet someone, you both have to turn the app on and press consent. And then,
Meeting them?
well, if you're going to have sex with someone, right? So because of what you're
Yeah.
saying earlier about the men being afraid and the women being uncomfortable, we're having a lot of that happening here as well. And so they've thought, okay, what if we have an app that when you meet someone, right? Because you know how there's like the guy goes, no, hold on, she said she wanted it, and the girl says, no, hold on, I did, but then I changed my mind,
Right.
right? So the
Right.
app is supposed to indicate the what's going on in that moment, because we have apps like Tinder, and it's a dating app, and that app, right, if you actually meet someone on that app and you
Mhm.
rape them, you can then go back and delete your profile and there's no record. So there's sometimes no information how to find that person gets off. So
Yeah.
do you think do you think that could be a solution, or do you think that there is a solution to deal with this, or do we just need to start changing?
Oh, geez. I don't think, yeah, there's no, I think that app idea is just a band-aid.
Mm.
And I could see it getting messy. I could see it getting messy. I think the only way is just like teaching our children to not rape people.
Yes.
Instead of here's the problem. We're teaching young girls like, be careful of this, be careful of that, and young boys like, go fuck.
Yes.
And I think that's the core issue, because I also think a problem is, I don't know what it's like in Australia, but in America, we have no sex education. And if we do, it's like very minimal. It's not like, okay, it's fear-based. It's fear-based sex education.
Is it religious-based? Like pregnancy?
It's not religious-based. It's just like, here are like the scariest pictures of any STD you can get. So don't have sex. Or like, if you get pregnant, like, this is what happens to your body, and you may not be able to, like, it's just like, we need to be teaching, I mean, not when you're like 5, but you need to be teaching kids, this is your body.
Normalize it.
Right. And I think it honestly might be New Zealand, or maybe it's Australia too. I'm not sure, that you guys kind of start sex education when you're really young, not this is how sex works when you're 5 years old.
I think it's got to do with the fact that we have a government funded health system, and so that falls under health. And so yes, some religious schools don't, because they think it might promote sex. Well, I think now
everyone's gonna have sex.
Everyone's gonna have sex. And when you said 5, I think it should be talked about as soon as they're born. Well, I think we've made it into a taboo.
So I think it's New Zealand that does it, but their sex ed starts at the beginning of when they go to school. But it's like, okay, these are the parts of my body. Like, you're not calling your vagina a cookie. You know what I mean? And you own your body. And if something makes you uncomfortable, this is what you like, that type of stuff. And as they get older, it gets more age appropriate. Like, you start getting more into the sexual stuff when people start hitting puberty and stuff. But in America, we don't do that at all. And we have a huge rape problem here. And I think it's because schools aren't teaching it. And parents feel uncomfortable.
And then you got the culture that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. And parents feel uncomfortable. A lot of parents feel uncomfortable having a sex talk with their child, which I mean, I understand, but like, hopefully when I have children, I won't be like that. So nobody's teaching it to them except porn. What sex is like, just porn. Yeah. And that is a huge problem, because
porn is so wrong. So like, it's so, nowadays porn is all about abusing the woman.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like all the music that we listen to, like,
I was gonna say that to you. Like, the other thing that confuses me is, because I'm listening to you, but then you've got all these video clips that are so raunchy, that the guys, like, there's a mixed message going on. Let's be nice. And then there's these girls naked. And I know there's nothing wrong with that, but I can understand how young people could be confused.
Yeah.
Because your generation is becoming. It's a lot more freer. Like, imagine a time in my generation where there was no phones, no internet. Yeah. So we didn't have as much. And now I feel there's a lot accessible. So do you have, this is the last question. Do you have hope that your generation, like you were saying, will be a mother that will teach and all that? Do you think that as the generations change, there will be a change? Or are you feeling a little bit like, this is just going to be the way it is for a long time?
I want to say, I want to be optimistic. I mean, I think there is a huge difference between people my age and people your age when it comes to talking about sex. But
you're not listening to the right people, darling.
There are a lot of people that are so religious and conservative.
America is way like middle America. I don't even have anything to compare it to here.
Are you guys not really religious at all?
No, we are, but we're not fanatical. We don't have those preachers. We have nothing like that. We might have one or two, but we don't. Like you guys have thousands of these sort of preachers in the middle, and you have all these really strong, opinionated religions about. It's very political. Put it that way.
That's the problem, and I'm like, not everyone is Christian.
Yeah.
Hello.
And if something happens over there that say LGBTIQ stuff or something, that group has such an influence on what happens. You know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? That can influence a vote, for example. Well, we don't have that here.
I don't know how Australian government works.
Well, I think it's more about the fact that we don't have as many people, and also we don't have as many religions. Like you guys have got, we only, we have a few religions. Well, there seems to be so many different ones that I've never heard of before. Like when someone becomes a preacher, I think that's a man-made. That's just a group of people getting together and calling themselves a religion. Well, ours is more Catholic, Anglican. It's those sort of things. Simple.
Are there Jewish people there?
Yeah, all that stuff.
I can move there then.
Yeah, you'd love it. There's more.
Okay.
It's more institutional. Well, is American religion more open? Is it? There's way more different beliefs. Like Scientology is a religion, right? That sort of stuff.
I guess.
So that's where I think it's confusing for you guys because, again, you've got a huge population. Huge.
There's too many people.
We've only got 29 million. You've got 300 million plus. So that's why.
Too many.
I think the best thing for you to do is just move to Australia.
I honestly might. Don't I have to marry someone to sponsor me to come there, though?
I think you'd fit in really well at Bondi Beach.
Okay, but I'm scared of the sun. Oh. I already had skin cancer.
Okay, so don't go to Bondi Beach.
This pale girl.
Yeah. All right, Shawn, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for your insights into the young American woman's view on life. Thank you. And
Joe.
Can you just, I guess I'll put all your information down below so people can listen to the podcast, they can get that book that you mentioned and all that sort of stuff. And hopefully we could have you on the show again.
Oh my God, I hope so. You want to come on mine?
I'd love to. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I want you to do one more thing before we leave.
Okay.
I want you to say Aussie, Aussie, Aussie.
Aussie, Aussie, Aussie.
Cool. That's it. That's the first step of becoming Australian. Thank you, Shawn.
Perfect.
Have a great night.
Thank you, Joe. You too.
You've been listening to the Secret Men's Business podcast. Now, the new podcast will be out every Monday. And don't forget, every Thursday, we do retro podcasts. So you can hear some of the podcasts from way back then. Now, don't forget to hit subscribe and like. And we'll be seeing you soon, guys. Bye.